Imagine trying your absolute best to climb the corporate ladder, working overtime, following every rule, and doing everything your boss asks, only to get ignored every single time. That was the miserable reality of Denisuke's life. But everything changed when he gets reincarnated into a fantasy world. Uchimura Denisuke, the main character of this anime, worked as ordinary salaryman in a corporate company. He performed his tasks diligently, yet his co-workers were always praised while he received no recognition from his boss. One day, he was sent abroad for work. Upon arrival, he discovered that the workers there barely worked. They were all busy in partying and wasting time. Uchimura tried to address the lack of manpower and resources with the management but received no help. Refusing to give up, he took it upon himself to handle everything alone and started working alone. Seeing his dedication, the local workers were inspired and began working as well. Just as everything started running smoothly, he received another call informing him of his transfer to another country. Frustrated and worn out by the endless grind, he questioned why he was putting himself through so much effort. While lost in thought, an elderly woman on a scooter crashed into him, sending him flying. In the next scene, he found himself in a totally different world with Demon King and his 3 warriors in front of him. Panicked, he repeatedly asked where he was and how he got there. The Demon King, sitting on the royal throne, addressed him by his name and welcomed him, which only made Uchimura more anxious. "How do you know my name?" Uchimura exclaimed. The Demon King replied, "I summoned you here to make you part of the Big Four." Shocked, Uchimura couldn't believe that someone like him, a mere salaryman, was being offered a position among the Big Four. The Demon King, holding a document with Uchimura's entire background and life achievements, declared that recruiting him into his army was the best decision based on his performance. Uchimura was flattered but conflicted, wondering how he could work for a demon. The Demon King promised him great power, wealth, and a salary equivalent to a director's from his previous world. He also offered him the freedom to choose his employees and become their boss. Seeing all the perks of being a boss, Uchimura began to reconsider. The Demon King then gave Uchimura a choice: accept the offer or return to his useless life where he would again have to live his useless life serving his corporate bosses. Reminded of his thankless job filled with hardships, Uchimura admitted that he was a weak employee who never received recognition from his supervisor. He doubted his own abilities because of it. Angered, the Demon King dismissed Uchimura's former supervisor's opinions, urging him to make a decision and emphasizing that only he would determine Uchimura's worth here. Just as Uchimura was about to respond, one of the 3 warriors, a girl named Almandra, interrupted. Almandra tells the king that she doesn't see Uchimura as a perfect fit for the 4th big general. As she speaks, the other 2 warriors, Sylphid and Genome, also express their doubts. The king responds, "I want to test him so no one has any objections." Hearing this, Uchimura becomes extremely nervous. Almandra, summoning energy into her limbs, lifts one leg and attempts to kick Uchimura, and just as she shouts "death kick," the king intercepts her kick with his hand, preventing it from reaching Uchimura, who faints at the sight of her terrifying power. Almandra, confused, asks the king why he stopped her, and he points to Uchimura, who is unconscious. Witnessing this, a heated argument begins among them. Just then, Uchimura regains consciousness, starts crying, and says, "There's no way I can compete with her, she'll kill me." The king calms him down and assures him that he doesn't need to fight anyone. The king then instructs Uchimura to change into a different outfit and shows him a map. He explains his plans to unite nearby clans, such as the Slime Elders and Werewolves, into the demon army. However, he emphasizes the importance of convincing the Minotrophin 4, a notoriously stubborn group. Hearing this, Uchimura exclaims, "This sounds harder than the toughest negotiations." The king suggests Almandra to help him gather information about the task. In the next scene, Almandra is shown escorting Uchimura to the Minotrophin territory. Along the way, she repeatedly mocks him, urging him to walk faster and telling him he won't pass the test. Uchimura reflects that he's always wanted to work under a boss who genuinely needed him, and now that he's found one, he resolves to meet their expectations through sheer effort and determination. Eventually, Almandra leads him to a massive door and smirks, saying, "The Minotrophin chief resides here. Let's just hope he doesn't crush you under his feet like a piece of paper." She opens the door, and Uchimura, terrified, mutters that he has no idea what's behind it but resolves to pass the test. The door reveals a giant, ferocious beast-like monster. Horrified, Uchimura screams, "What kind of massive monster is this?" Standing frozen, he closes his eyes and wonders how to deal with it without any powers. Almandra steps forward and begins speaking to the beast in a calm and authoritative manner. The Minotrophin chief listens to her attentively, but soon, they start arguing. Uchimura gets even more terrified seeing them arguing. Almandra takes Uchimura back outside, closes the door, and says, "At first, everything went smoothly with him, but he was constantly refusing to listen to her, so she got angry." She instructs Uchimura to take charge from here and leaves. Now alone, Uchimura wonders if he's even capable of doing doing what the king expects of him. Lost in thought, he wanders to a nearby food stall, eating while trying to figure out a plan, as this was the first time someone was expecting something from him. Determined, he prepares himself and returns to the task. Meanwhile, Almandra reports to the king, telling him that Lord Turius isn't agreeing to talk and the outsider seems incapable of handling the situation. The king dismisses her concerns and says, "Watch and see for yourself." Almandra returns to find Uchimura outside the Minotrophin chief's quarters, cleaning up all the garbage in front of the door. His goal is to make a good impression and get the chief to speak with him favorably. Uchimura confidently tells Almandra to just watch how he manages to convince Lord Turius. The scene cuts to the next morning, where Almandra visits the room and finds it filled with trash, with neither Uchimura nor Turius present. Furious, she begins to fume. Just then, Uchimura appears behind her, cheerfully greeting her good morning. She angrily confronts him, but Uchimura explains that he has resolved the issue. The scene shifts to Turius presenting himself before the king, thanking Uchimura for his efforts. Turius then approached Uchimura and Almandra and shakes hand with her and express mutual happiness. Before leaving, the king arrives and congratulates Uchimura on solving the task and passing the challenge. He declares that Uchimura is now officially selected as the fourth big of the demon army, with no objections from anyone. The king instructs Uchimura to raise his right hand and gives him a magical bracelet adorned with a glowing gem, telling him it will empower him to act fearlessly and follow his own ideas. Almandra also raises her hand with the bracelet, revealing that she wears an identical one. They promise to always help each other. In the following scenes, Uchimura is shown being given a grand office to start his work. He decides that before beginning, he should introduce himself to the other members of the Big Four. First, Uchimura visits Sylphid's room and knocks on the door. A girl named Belinda, Sylphid's assistant, answers. Uchimura introduces himself and says he'd like to meet Sylphid. However, Belinda informs him that Lord Sylphid hasn't been around for several days and shuts the door. Uchimura moves on to meet the other members. As he walks, Almandra runs up behind him and grabs him, saying she had been looking for him. She informs him that the king has called him for a new mission. Uchimura promptly appears before the king, who assigns him the task of negotiating with the ogres. The king explains that he wants to unite all the nearby territories to create a powerful, consolidated dominion. The ogres are much stronger than the demi-humans, with an army equal in size and power. The surrounding regions view the ogres as their leaders, forcing the demi-humans' army to remain constantly on guard. The ogres have been expanding their influence, creating challenges for the king's plans. The king instructs Uchimura to bring the ogres into their fold. Almandra insists on accompanying him, saying she would feel uneasy if she didn't go along. Uchimura agrees but suggests they first meet with Genome, who leads the demi-humans army and likely has useful information about the ogres. Almandra escorts Uchimura to Genome's room but does not enter, saying she has other tasks to complete. Uchimura agrees and proceeds to meet Genome, who is training her army. She calls for a break and approaches Uchimura, asking why he wanted to meet her. Uchimura introduces himself and explains that he also needs information about the ogres. Genome shares that the ogre priest is a very strict man and that their leader possesses immense power. She abruptly changes the topic, saying Uchimura will have to see everything for himself. Just then, Almandra arrives bursting with anger. Uchimura looks behind and sees Almandra furious, demanding that they leave immediately. This sparks an argument between the two, with Uchimura questioning why she gets so worked up over everything. Uchimura gets confused how she got there and why was she angry. Meanwhile, Genome points to Almandra and says, "But first, get rid of that demon. It's preventing my army from practicing and they might kill her." Upon hearing this, both starts fighting. Despite their bickering, they proceed to the ogre's territory. At the gates, they are made to wait for a long time, which only adds to Almandra's anger. Uchimura manages to calm her down just as a young woman arrives, apologizing for the delay and inviting them inside. She leads them to the ogre priest's chamber and asks them to enter. Inside, Almandra begins to speak respectfully, but the priest rudely silences her, stating that no one can move without his permission. This infuriates Almandra, but she holds herself back. The priest reveals that he knows why they are there and, instead of agreeing to their proposal, suggests that they join his army. He then lays down a condition. He demands the head of the demon king. This demand pushes Almandra to her breaking point, but Uchimura intervenes, requesting time to consider the matter. Thanking the priest, they leave the chamber. Outside, Almandra vents her frustration, calling the priest all sorts of names. Uchimura tries to explain that it's all part of the priest's strategy to provoke them into making a mistake, giving him an excuse to reject their offer outright. This leads to another argument between Uchimura and Almandra, but she eventually admits her mistake. While they're discussing their next steps, the same young woman approaches them again. Apologizing for interrupting, she introduces herself as the priest's daughter. Surprised, the two ask if she has come to fight them. However, what she says next leaves them stunned. She wants her father to be removed from his position. The priest's daughter takes them to the palace's storage room, which is completely empty. She explains that their financial situation has become dire. Uchimura had already noticed this upon arrival, observing the state of the palace and the old uniforms of the guards. The priest's daughter admits that she has repeatedly urged her father to ally with the demon army, but he stubbornly refuses. Now, with his health deteriorating, he has lost much of his strength. She reveals that the long wait at the gate was merely an attempt to display their remaining authority. She fears that if her father dies in this state, everything will collapse. Uchimura advises her that no matter the circumstances, a leader should never reveal their weaknesses, especially to potential adversaries. He also tells her that as the priest's daughter, she must protect his dignity and ensure his legacy. Impressed by Uchimura's wisdom, the priest's daughter declares him a good man and unexpectedly proposes marriage. She argues that by marrying her, Uchimura could take her father's place and ensure the safety of their people. Meanwhile, we see Almandra getting jealous. Uchimura was completely unprepared for this and flatly refuses the proposal. However, with no other solution in sight, the priest's daughter insists and leaned over him, and as she was about to kiss Uchimura, Almandra steps in and requests some time to consider the matter. The two then return to their castle. Back in his office, Uchimura reflects on the situation but decides to take a break and grab some drink to think straight. After drinking, he returns to his office with an idea, begins planning his next move. The next morning, Uchimura prepares to continue the mission. He informs Almandra, and they set out together. A week later, they are shown standing before the ogre priest once again. This time, the priest is furious, questioning how the tribes surrounding his territory have already joined the demon army. Now we are shown what Uchimura and Almandra did during the week before their meeting with King Ogre. As they set out, Almandra asks Uchimura about his plan and what he intends to do next. Uchimura explains that before going to Lord Ogre, they need to approach the surrounding tribes and ally with them. This strategy was something Uchimura had already encountered in his previous world, allowing him to handle the situation with ease. In his past life, Uchimura faced a similar situation when a big company refused to buy the new products from his factory. In response, he sold the products to smaller companies in the vicinity. This created a chain reaction where the larger company had no choice but to approach Uchimura's factory and purchase the products directly. Returning to the present, we see Uchimura answer Lord Ogre's question. He explains that the tribes faced many challenges, all of which could be resolved by joining the demon army. Thus, they accepted the offer. Uchimura adds that they didn't approach the tribes alone but with a representative from Lord Ogre himself. This revelation shocks Lord Ogre, who insists he sent no such representative. Uchimura refutes this and calls the representative to step inside. Standing outside the door is Oral, Lord Ogre's daughter. She enters, and Lord Ogre angrily confronts her, asking why she acted without his permission. Oral tearfully explains that their kingdom is no longer what it used to be. Her father has grown old and needs support. She argues that the demon army is the best option to ensure their survival. Moved by her words, Lord Ogre realizes the truth in her reasoning. Uchimura suggests a friendship pact with the demon army instead of a complete alliance, ensuring that Lord Ogre wouldn't feel inferior. Lord Ogre requests some time to think it over. The three of them leave, giving him space to decide. A few days later, we see that the friendship pact has been finalized. Back at his office, Uchimura is busy with work when there's a knock at the door. He opens it to find Oral, who has been sent as an ambassador from Lord Ogre. Oral grabs Uchimura's hand and thanks him profusely, which visibly irritates Almandra. Seeing this, Oral suggests that Uchimura should ask for something in return from her for helling her tribe. Uchimura requests additional staff to help with his work and asks Oral if she would like to join. Dude just knew what to ask for. Excited by this, she agrees. We see Almandra again getting uncomfortable, but Uchimura also extends the same offer to Almandra, but she angrily refuses, breaking his dream of making harem. In the next scene, we see Uchimura working in his office when Oral informs him that the Bearman tribe has also agreed to join the demon army, making him very happy. She further informs him that he will be awarded for facilitating the friendship pact between the Demon King and the ogres. Uchimura feels elated, as he was never appreciated for anything in his previous life, and now he was about to be recognized recognized with an award. Suddenly, Almandra arrives with lunch, and the two sit down to eat together. Uchimura complains about the food being bland. It's revealed that Oil has been teaching Uchimura about this new world using her royal studies and extensive knowledge. Uchimura jokes that sometimes he just craves some meat, which excites Almandra, prompting her to take him on a hunting trip. In reality, she had just received a request to eliminate a magical beast that had appeared in the area. The beast had already killed and eaten 5 orcs and other demi-humans. As they ventured out, Uchimura began reflecting on the many problems this world faced, from limited food supplies to dangerous magical beasts. Eventually, Almandra located the area where the orcs had been attacked, a mushroom grove. They decided to wait there, but moments later, the magical boar attacked them. Seeing the size of the boar, Uchimura was terrified and nearly panicked. Almandra calmly instructed him to retreat slowly while she handled the monster. Uchimura hid behind a tree, observing the fight. He noticed that the magical boar attacked similarly to a normal pig, charging from a straightforward, 2D perspective. Meanwhile, Almandra was skillfully dodging the rocks thrown by the monster. Uchimura wondered why she hadn't brought a weapon for hunting, but then Almandra leaped from a tree, ready to reveal her true powers. She used her magic to transform her hand into an armored weapon and grabbed the monster's horns, lifting it with just one hand. Twisting its horns, she overpowered and killed the boar. Excitedly, Almandra declared that it was ready to eat. However, judging by Uchimura's expression, it was clear that he had no appetite left. Later, we see villagers thanking Almandra for killing the monster. She instructed them to share the meat since it was a rare delicacy. A village woman gifted Almandra a leg piece of the boar as a token of gratitude. Uchimura became excited when Almandra told him she could cook and promised to make roasted meat from it. He began daydreaming about delicious food, as he had been eating bland porridge since arriving in this world. However, his excitement turned to horror when Almandra used her fire magic to roast the meat, charring it completely. Shocked by the sight of the burnt meat, Uchimura complained, but Almandra angrily beat him and told him to eat silently. As he took a bite, he began crying. It tasted terrible. He then asked if he could use the public oven, requesting some mushrooms and a bit of salt. After some time, he prepared a proper meal, grilled pork and mushroom soup. When Almandra took her first bite, she was shocked at how delicious it was, even going wild from the taste. The villagers joined in and began enjoying the meal as well. Uchimura offered to teach them how to cook meat properly, but Almandra initially opposed the idea, arguing that it might lower the status of the Big Four. Uchimura, however, refused to back down, explaining that basic knowledge like this could help the civilization grow. Acknowledging the truth in his words, Almandra admitted that their country was barren and lacked resources and knowledge compared to other great nations. The two became excited at the prospect of improving their nation, agreeing that as members of the Big Four, they must strive to make the kingdom great. Later that night, they decide to head back to the city. Almandra casts her magic, creating a glowing light orb to keep the beasts away. She explains that demi-humans cannot use magic, which makes Uchimura realize why Genome's troops trained so intensely. He asks if Sliphid is a demon or a demi-human, but even Almandra isn't certain. She adds that Sliphid never attends the Big Four meetings in person either. On their way back, Uchimura suggests that Almandra use weapons for better efficiency, similar to using an oven for cooking. He explains that while magic is powerful, transforming her body takes time to recover, and she could benefit from wearing protective clothing instead of relying solely on her body. Almandra reluctantly agrees that he might have a point, but his remarks feel like insults to her. It dawns on her that Uchimura's human nature prioritizes efficiency, something that doesn't align with her demon instincts. Frustrated, she tells him to head back to the orcs' village, assuring him they'll escort him the next day, and leaves him alone in the jungle. Uchimura, confused and terrified, realizes he has angered her. He debates whether to follow and apologize, but the sound of a monster's screams sends him running back to the orcs' village. In the next scene, the Demon King praises Uchimura for dealing with the beast but questions why Almandra returned late at night while he came back in the morning. Feeling unworthy, Uchimura asks to be dismissed from his position in the Big Four and apologizes profusely. However, the Demon King orders him to resolve the misunderstanding with Almandra, explaining that this experience will help him better understand the world. Later, Uchimura reflects on what could have upset Almandra. Observing the differences between demons and demi-humans, he notices that demons wear revealing clothing as a symbol of their power and superiority, as they are stronger and capable of using magic. He realizes that his comment about Almandra's clothing had offended her deeply, as demons consider their bodies a symbol of honor and strength. Meanwhile, Al finds Almandra crying in a corner. When asked why, Almandra tearfully explains that Uchimura hates her and doesn't appreciate her body. Al reassures her, saying that Uchimura's values differ from theirs. She believes Uchimura doesn't think exposing the body is appropriate. Almandra becomes frantic, thinking Uchimura sees her as a pervert despite her modesty. She starts hitting her head on the ground, lamenting that all her gestures of affection were misunderstood. Crying, she asks Aurel what to do. Aurel calms her down, assuring her that Uchimura's personality is different and he wouldn't have taken offense. Elsewhere, Uchimura sits in a bar, enjoying sake and appreciating the food. The chef, pleased with the compliment, gives him a complimentary dish with a smile. Inspired by this, Uchimura gets an idea and rushes to the castle. At the same time, Almandra is frantically searching for him. When they meet, Uchimura shouts that he finds her extremely attractive and her body beautiful. Simultaneously, Almandra shouts that she isn't a pervert. Both are left shy and embarrassed by the misunderstanding. Uchimura apologizes, explaining that he doesn't know much about demons. Almandra realizes that he has been studying their culture and teases him for being so serious. She also apologizes for imposing her ideals on him. Relieved, Uchimura tells her they can be good partners, which leaves Almandra blushing, thinking it was a direct confession. In the next scene, the Demon King awards Uchimura in front of the tribal leaders who joined the demon army under his guidance. He bestows upon him the title of Overseas Expatriate Heavenly King and presents him with a magic stone as a reward. However, Uchimura insists that he couldn't have achieved such results alone. He kneels before Almandra and offers her the magic stone, saying it belongs to both of them. Almandra becomes flustered and shouts, "How can I accept it like this?" Aurel explains that Uchimura must be unaware that gifting a magic stone to someone of the opposite gender is equivalent to a marriage proposal. Almandra, embarrassed and furious, yells at Uchimura for not choosing a more romantic or private setting to give her the stone. Amidst the chaos at the castle, a mysterious demon woman watches the scene through her magic, commenting, "A loser like him has gained recognition." That's it for part 1, guys. Subscribe for part 2.